He didn't panic. That's what made him hard to see. The most dangerous crimes are the ones that don't look like crimes at first. He did it calmly. No rush, no chaos, almost the same every time. People were disappearing, and at first, nobody connected the dots. Too scattered, too ordinary for a city like this at the time. But then, investigators noticed something they couldn't ignore anymore. It kept repeating. Same pattern, same behavior, same outcome, and only later, they understood. This wasn't coincidence. The city wasn't looking for a serial killer, because the concept didn't even exist in their investigative thinking yet. Sometimes, a system doesn't break. It simply hasn't been built yet. Moscow. In the early 1920s, post-revolution collapse, poverty and instability. Weak criminal investigation system. No centralized forensic infrastructure. Cases were often investigated separately, with no system in place to connect patterns across incidents. Some people don't have a past, only a beginning that shows up in a case file. Sometimes, investigators aren't looking for a past, they're looking for a starting point. There is almost no verified historical information about this individual's early life. His background, before appearing in criminal records, remains largely undocumented. What stood out wasn't the number of incidents, it was how identical they were. When crimes look too similar, the first assumption is always coincidence. A series of killings recorded in the early 1920s. Incidents occurred across different districts of Moscow. Victims were mostly men. Encounters were described as random. Historical sources do not agree on an exact, confirmed number of cases. The investigation is commonly associated with an estimated range of 29 to 33 killings. Serial cases always have a signature, but here, the signature came before the identity. The simpler the pattern, the longer it goes unnoticed. Repeating sequence, random encounter, spending time together, moving to a secluded location, a violent attack. This pattern is reconstructed from investigative records. Sometimes, a case isn't solved, it's assembled. The problem wasn't the evidence, it was that it wasn't connected. Early on, incidents were treated separately. No connection was made between cases. No system existed for linking serial incidents. At some point, separate cases stopped being separate. Investigators didn't find a person. First, they found repetition. Vasily Komarov. The name didn't solve the case, it emerged from it. Sometimes, a suspect isn't discovered, he's reconstructed. An arrest, in a case like this, doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like confirmation. A confession doesn't end the case, it explains it. Arrested during the investigation of a series of murders. Interrogations were conducted. Confession statements were reported in historical sources. Full interrogation transcripts have not survived in publicly available records. There wasn't one piece of evidence. There was a chain that stopped being random. Sometimes, evidence isn't physical, it's repetition. Evidence included witness statements, confession statements, comparison of repeated circumstances. The turning point came when investigators connected three elements: people disappearing after contact with the same individual, bodies found within areas connected to his activity, and a subsequent confession. Sometimes, a map of crimes says more than the suspect ever could. When there's no center, there's only movement. Moscow. Incidents spread across multiple districts. No confirmed central location. Pattern. Courts don't always build perfect cases. Sometimes they build connected ones. In this case, the connection mattered more than each individual act. Trial took place in the early 1920s. The case included a series of murders. The court convicted him based on the combined evidence presented at the time. Sentence: death penalty by firing squad. Execution: 1923. The court treated the incidents not as isolated cases, but as a single, connected series based on repeated behavioral pattern, timing of disappearances, geographic connection to the suspect, confession, evidence. A case isn't built on one fact, it's built on facts that can't be separated. When coincidences stack up, they stop being coincidences. The conviction was based on the combined weight of all evidence, not on proving each individual incident separately. Some cases become bigger than the person at the center of them. This case helped shape how linked crimes were later investigated. One of the earliest documented serial murder cases in the Soviet Union contributed to early understanding of repeat offender behavior, helped shape how linked crimes were later investigated. The most important cases don't end with a verdict, they end with understanding. And sometimes, the scariest realization isn't who did it, it's that it kept happening the same way. This case became a moment where the system first faced a repeating criminal pattern and a question they weren't yet prepared to answer. How do you investigate a crime that isn't a single event, but a repeating structure?